In the dark expanse of space, Astra Colony erupts in scarlet alarm as 27 Dark Swarm warships close in. These ruthless marauders show no mercy. 5,000 lives teeter on the brink of annihilation until a forbidden frequency rings out, an SOS cast into the void. Will the Death Worlders answer the call? Join us to find out, because only when power meets protection can the galaxy be saved. On the silent fringes of explored space, beneath the dim glow of a distant, solitary star, the Astra Colony emerges like a colossal crystalline beacon against the ink-black backdrop of the asteroid field. From afar, its structures glint like shards of ice under starlight, each facet reflecting a soft cerulean glow that dances across the void. Mining platforms rise like metallic trees, their spires drilling deep into mineral-rich asteroids to harvest cargoes of extraordinary materials. Not gold or diamond, but superconducting alloys and energy-infused crystals, the SOS revere as the very nuclei of life. The architecture of Astra is inseparable from the crystalline ores it extracts. Habitation domes, workstations, and transit tunnels all bear the signature facets of cut crystal, each edge polished to refract the silver light of distant suns. Gigantic drill stowering, as high as 30 meters pivot on gimbals of transparent alloy, burrowing into the rocky cores of asteroids. Conveyor belts of luminescent tubing snake back toward the central hub, carrying shards of live crystal that hum with latent power. Against this tableau of living technology, the colony glows like a jewel suspended in space. The colonists themselves known in their native tongue as the Asocial, from a windswept desert world where the atmosphere is thin, water scarce, and the nights frigid. Under relentless environmental pressures, their bodies evolved into semi-translucent forms, skin and bone composed of bioluminescent crystal, each joint flickering with tiny halos of inner light. Standing 30 to 40% taller than the average human, their lithe frames balance tensile strength, akin to diamond with the graceful fragility of glass. When they speak, their voices resonate like wind echoing through a crystal cavern, sometimes bright and chiming, sometimes deep and sonorous, as if the cosmos itself were lending voice to their words. Founded just over 2 centuries ago at coordinate 7B9 in the Galactic Council's registry, Astra began as a modest research outpost with only a few dozen scientists and technicians. The discovery of the rare life crystals transformed its fate overnight. Over the next decades, prospectors and their families streamed in until the population stabilized at around 5,000 souls. Today, the colony comprises miners, engineers, medical specialists, logistics coordinators, and their kin, all united by a singular purpose: to extract and study the crystalline wonders that, once refined, power starships and sustain entire worlds. At the heart of the colony stands the Central Crystal Facility, a vast hexagonal edifice crowned by a dome of purest quartz. Here lies the control chamber and information confluence, where Elder Bluesong presides. His form is a breathtaking panorama of shifting hues emerald, sapphire, and vile teach pulse of color echoing the colony's vital rhythm. Beside him stands Crystal Hum, the young technical commander, whose incandescent figure seems woven from morning mist and starlight. Together, they oversee every operation, from monitoring ore yields to ensuring worker safety, from coordinating supply chains to regulating the thermal balance within deep beneath the surface. Each day in Astra unfolds with meticulous precision. Sensors embedded in every shaft and cavern relay real-time data to the control chamber. Mineral compositional analyses, structural integrity reports, and biomonitor readouts stream across holoscreens and cascading ribbons of light. Every crystal fragment that arrives at the sorting bays is cataloged to the nearest nanogram. Even the colony's power grids fueled by the very crystals they minear, subject to constant vigilance, ensuring that fluctuations never exceed the delicate tolerances of ASOS physiology. Yet for all its technological prowess, life in Astra is not without ceremony. At dawn's first tremor of light, citizens gather in the open plaza before the central facility for the light reflection rite. Each places a palm against a luminescent crystal pillar, attuning their inner glow to the cadence of the stars. In unison, they breathe in the faint warp of cosmic rays, aligning their mental and emotional states with the gentle cycles of galactic energy. Afterward, they disperse into work cruise drill operators, cargo handlers, quality inspector sand, then to tranquil crystalline gardens, where glass-like flora pulse softly, offering serene spaces for rest and reflection. The colony's life support systems mirror its ethos of harmony and sustainability. Bioreactor chambers cultivate shimmering algal crystals that both nourish and filter waste. Photochemical reactors break down effluents into base elements, which are then recycled into new growth cycles. Magnetic zero-G transit tubes whisk cargo pods through the colony's spine at speeds surpassing terrestrial trains, carefully dampening vibrations to protect fragile crystal lungs and joints. Even the lighting is calibrated to mimic distant starlight, preserving the natural circadian rhythms vital to Astro's health. Conflict is nearly unheard of within Astra's crystalline halls. A charter law proclaims that any act of physical or psychological harm is anathema, and in 2 centuries only, minor infractions have occurred. No murders, no armed skirmishes. The ASOS hold nonviolence as a fundamental principle, a covenant between themselves and the silent cosmos that birthed them. Yet tales of the Dark Swarm fleet, the ruthless marauders who drift through the outer sectors, stripping colonies bare, circulate like cautionary legends. No ASOS has ever clashed with these predators, but their reputation persists as a distant warning, a reminder of ungoverned violence lurking beyond the horizon. On the eve of the latest mining campaign, the colony lay hushed under the waning light of its parent star. Crystalline lanterns, children's finger-sized growths, tuned to bioluminescence-edged paths of soft sapphire through the corridor. Small clusters of young ASOS chattered in excited whispers, comparing dreams of unearthing previously unseen veins of living crystal. Technicians double-checked drill calibrations, while medics performed routine luminous health scan. And all the while, Elder Bluesong observed from his ivory dais, unaware that come dawn, the tranquility they so cherished was destined to fracture. For when the first alarm bell pierced 2 centuries of silence, it would mark the beginning of a trial unlike any Astra had ever faced. Calm before the storm. Daily mining operations and life on Astra. Dawn's first light on Astra arrives as a gentle glow etched against the vaulted crystal roofs, stirring the colony into motion. The faint luminescence seeps through the faceted dome panels, casting prismatic patterns across the courtyard. A clear, resonant chime rings through the air, signaling the start of the work shift. From every corner of the settlement, hundreds of mining teams assemble and depart, their silhouettes flickering like living gemstones under the soft sunrise. Magnetically levitated transport vehicles glide along the embedded field rails, their hushed whistles forming a rhythmic soundtrack to the early morning hustle. Miners don protective crystal fiber suits, their transparent visors lined with embedded vibration and microfracture sensors. Each operator takes their post beside the drilling automaton storing machines that bore relentlessly into asteroid rock. Deep beneath the colony's surface, the drills hum with low-frequency power, and the entire shaft shivers in response. At the central monitoring hub, Commander Crystalhum stands before a semicircle of holographic screens. He notes a slight anomaly in Tunnel 17's vibration metrics. Cutting rate down by 3%, he murmurs, fingertips tracing the data stream. With a tap, he dispatches an alert to the subterranean rigs. Within moments, workers underground adjust hydraulic pressures and recalibrate laser cutters, restoring peak performance. This swift, near-telepathic coordination epitomizes the ASOS creed, unity through precision. Not far from the drilling fields, the biocrystal research chambers hum with a gentle, pale blue glow. Here, scientists in slender lab overalls delicately insert mineral samples into containment arrays. Laser emitters pulse in calibrated sequences, simulating the intense photonic conditions under which the crystals form. Their mission is twofold: to map each crystal's molecular lattice and to pioneer a synthetic fusion of these minerals with native microbial cultures. Such biocrystal hybrids promise to yield nutrient-dense food sources, a breakthrough that could one day free Astra from reliance on supply convoys traversing the galactic trade lanes. Meanwhile, in the colony's inner sanctums, families converge in the crystalline gardens. Children dart between luminous fluorotransparent stems etched with internal microgrooves that emit a gentle glow. They gather stray mineral fragments, each shard shimmering like a tiny star. Elder botanists oversee the gardens, tending to hydroponic trays that support both glass-like ferns and algae-infused plankton beds. Parents recline by the energy well-circular pits, lined with reactive crystal-sipping rare optical tea. The beverage is a concoction of pulverized crystal powder dissolved in a bioluminescent solvent. Each sip floods the mouth with cool, sweet clarity, leaving a subtle aftertaste of starlight. Conversations drift from the latest sculptural techniques etching facets into raw crystalto, advanced methods of weaving light within transparent artworks. Laughter echoes under the dome, and a profound sense of peace permeates every breath. Midday gathers beneath the colony's grandest dome, whose transparent walls offer an unbroken vista of the star-strewn void. Tables, equipped with automated refilling arms, traverse the dining hall, depositing perfectly portioned, crystal kelp cakes before each diner. These cakes, grown in the bioreactor vats, possess the delicate texture of sea kelp and a faint inner luminescence. When cut, they scatter rainbow-hued beams across the table, enchanting every meal with a celestial play of light. Soft harp-like tones emanate from an array of crystal-stringed instruments stationed at the hall's center. The music floats through the air, lifting spirits as though the entire gathering drifts weightlessly among the stars. As afternoon settles, maintenance crews fan out across the colony. Engineers in reflective exosuits inspect life support ducts, replacing spent filtration modules that convert waste aerosols into pure oxygen. In the cooling nexus, technicians pump chilled crystal slurry through heat exchangers, stabilizing habitat temperatures. Along the upper concourses, transparent display cases showcase polished mineral specimen siege, a miniature universe of swirling inclusions and refracted hues. Visitors pause before these exhibits, studying the subtlest variations in clarity and crystalline structure. These galleries serve as both educational centers and inspirational spaces, where a single fragment can spark new theories for research teams. When Astra's secondary sun dips below the horizon, the colony transforms under an opaline twilight. Residents' bioluminescent veins glow in gentle patterns that reflect their personal energy cycles. Hallways shimmer, as though shot through with liquid sapphire. In these quiet moments, many pause to watch meteor fragments streaking by, tiny firebrands against the black infinity. Thoughts drift outward, pondering distant nebulae and the secrets they might conceal. All the day's labor, the precision controls, the rigorous checks, these worries dissolve in the vastness of space. Long after most have retired, the settlement's core lights remain aglow. Security specialists man the data vaults, weaving multi-layered encryption around every mining transaction. They ensure that no unauthorized entity can reverse engineer SOS crystal synthesis or harvest genetic data from biocrystal experiments. Redundant backups of every ore signature, every molecular analysis are stored in subterranean archives, sealed behind magnetic locks and quantum firewall protocols. Here, security is both guardian and guarantor of transparency, proof that in Astra's peaceful realm, knowledge is shared, not hoarded. Amid this tranquil routine, not a single mind speculates on flight or defense drills. Discussion of combat or tactical planning finds no purchase in daily life. Instead, the ASOs remain confident in the integrity of their crystalline shields, their unshakable bonds of trust, and their unwavering belief in peaceful progress. Yet, history and folklore caution them to vigil, but for now, the colony thrives on routine. Every drill hole reinforced, every laser calibration perfect, every data packet sealed, such is the steady heartbeat of life on Astra. In these moments before the greatest upheaval, calm reigns supreme. The colony hums with measured efficiency, as predictable as the orbital cycles of its parent star. And though none here dare imagine a day when this peace will fracture, the stage is set. For beneath the surface and beyond the domes, forces stir. When the first alarm breaks this luminous serenity, it will shatter more than glass it, will test every crystal-honed skill and every bond of unity the ASOS have forged. But that, as they say, is a challenge for tomorrow. Today, the glowing heart of Astra pulses on, serene and untroubled, under the watchful gaze of the cosmos. Emergency alert, warning systems, and the initial response. A sudden, piercing alarm shattered the tranquil hum of Astra's crystalline halls, sounding like a desperate scream from some distant realm. Instantly, the colony's renowned security network, the warning systems, celebrated as the most sophisticated sensor array in the galaxy, flared to life. Corridors once bathed in gentle azure glow were flooded with urgent, pulsing red light. Each glinting surface of the ASOS colonists reflected the alarm's color, transforming them into rows of vibrating gemstones caught in panic's sudden grip. In the central command chamber, Elder Bluesong froze mid-gesture, his normally serene composure rippling with tension. He, whose luminous form usually resembled a calm, crystalline ocean, trembled slightly, almost imperceptible shake that spoke volume. With a fluent motion, he turned his attention to the holomap hovering in the room's center. A constellation of crimson dots blinked frenetically across the projection, marking the approach of multiple unidentified vessels within Astra's shield perimeter. Bluesong's voice was clipped as he addressed the room. "What is our status?" Instantly, Commander Crystal Hum, whose refracted silhouette quivered like shaken quartz, barked his report. "Elder, long-range scanners have just confirmed 27 large contacts inbound. No broadcast of peaceful intent, no docking request. Their formation and speed match known hostile patterns." His tone quavered at each word, carrying the urgency of a gale through a narrow canyon. Dark shapes on the holomap coalesced into an unmistakable threat. An organized fleet arrayed in precise attack vectors. Plasma thrusters pulsed with sickly purple flares, and ominous, armor-plated hulls blocked out distant starlight. Bluesong's normally vibrant aura dimmed, evidence of the rising dread. "Prepare the zonal grid," he commanded. "Lock down non-essential systems. Alert every station. We are facing an assault, not a survey." Across the hallway, Lieutenant Kailground Station Observation lead rushed to the adjacent console. His usually measured, professor-like voice cracked as he relayed his own chilling data. "Elder, they're decelerating into orbital insertion around our core. Targeting prioritizes the central command, not the extraction tunnels. Their vectors align with direct attack profiles." Fear laced Kail's words. The calculated scientist was losing his calm. Bluesong inhaled deeply, projection waves of pale blue and green rippling along his limbs. "We lack armaments," he announced grimly. "Our exterior shields deflect debris, not plasma beams or guided munitions. Estimate 4 to 5 hours until they begin bombardment if they wait that long." He cast a hard look at Crystal Hum. "Contact the Galactic Council. Request immediate aid." Crystal Hum's form flickered with energy as he keyed the interstellar.com link. "Distance is too great," he answered, voice taut with resignation. "The nearest council fleet is 2 weeks away at maximum warp if they even receive our call. In 2 days, that is, if they heed it." An oppressive silence fell. In every corner of the chamber, SOS colonists stood immobilized, their bioluminescent cores dimmed by panic. The red emergency lights painted them as statues of shattered glass. For a moment, fear alone ruled the room, until Crystal Hum exhaled sharply and spoke again. "Elder," he urged, "we must override our prime directive on non-interference. Transmit an SOS on the human beacon frequency. It violates our sacred covenant, but this is a matter of survival." His words resonated, echoing off quartz walls. A somber plea to break millennia, old taboos. Bluesong closed his eyes, memories of past council judgments flickering through his mind. The ASOS had once been banished from human alliances for their uncontrolled psionic experiments deemed too dangerous. Yet now, that same feared power could be their only hope. Opening his eyes, he shimmered with newfound resolve. "Retrieve the archaic frequency codes," he ordered quietly. "We must trust humanity, those we feared for salvation." Crystal Hum dashed to the vintage code archive, where dusty holotomes contained centuries-old signal protocols. Data technicians hovered nearby, fingers poised over consoles. Time seemed to slow as lines of encrypted text scrolled across displays. Every moment, a precious heartbeat in a race against annihilation. Finally, Crystal Hum spoke the ancient command sequence letters and numbers no ASOS had uttered in over 200 years. Outside the command chamber, sirens wailed, an unrelenting crescendo. Scarlet strobes pulsed down every corridor of Astra, warning civilians to take shelter. Workers in the mine shafts halted machines mid-cycle, awaiting orders from above. In the communal hubs, families looked up from their tea rituals, eyes widening as broadcast panels flickered with red alert icon. Some gasped, others knelt in silent prayer to the Crystal Communion, seeking inner calm. Back in control, Bluesong monitored the final preparations. He watched as Crystal Hum engaged the ancient transmitter, a monolithic crystalline obelisk, wired directly into Astra's quantum comm array. Its surface crackled with raw energy, ancient runes glowing with revived potency. Bluesong placed a hand upon the obelisk, channeling his own bioluminescence into the signal, weaving psionic resonance through the data pulses. Then, a single sentence echoed into the void. "To any human vessel able to receive, this is the Astra Mining Colony, Sector 7B9. We are under attack by a hostile fleet. We possess no defenses, only children and innocents. Please help us. Please." The words spoken in the shared galactic lingua franca of English, learned from centuries of historical archive scud through the darkness of space. The plea surged outward, carried on waves of light and heartfelt desperation. In that instant, every Assos in the chamber held their breath, united by hope and fear. For a heartbeat, the cosmos answered in silence. Then, deep within the quantum receiver, crystals pulsed in recognition evidence that somewhere across light years, a human vessel had heard. The faintest signal returned, too distant to discern words, but alive with urgency. As Blue Song and Crystal Hum exchanged glances of cautious relief, Lieutenant KL typed furiously to amplify the beacon, ensuring its persistence. Behind them, the red lights continued to flash, as if the very walls bled urgency. All at once, the stark reality of their vulnerability dawned. They had broken their holiest law, placed faith in their greatest adversaries, and broadcast their helplessness to the void. Yet, amid the trembling fear and flashing crimson, a spark of solidarity ignited. The Assassance, isolated, once exiled now, stood on the brink of drawing humanity into their defense. Whatever the response, they had made their stand. And as the hollow panels registered the distant flicker of a returning signal, a fragile promise of rescue kindled within the heart of the colony. For Astra, the calm before the storm was shattering. But in their most desperate hour, they reached across the gulf of mistrust and found a slender thread of hope. And so, with warning bells still ringing and the Black Fleet looming ahead, the colony held its breath waiting for the fragile echo of salvation to return from the vastness of space. Identifying the threat, the arrival of the Dark Swarm fleet. Once the distress signal faded into the void, the silent expanse outside seemed to pause, as if listening. Then, the colony's holomap burst into frenetic motion. 27 crimson icons expanded and contracted, spinning in tight formation across the virtual grid. Crystal Hum pivoted in his chair, tracing a graceful arc through the holographic controls to zoom in on the orbital sector. His crystalline eyes widened in alarm. "Elder," he announced, voice taut with urgency. "These are not merchant or exploration vessels. They're arrayed in a tactical diamond formation, flanked by 2 narrower squadrons. On the shaded surface of each large hull, the holomap's augmented detail filters revealed thick, matte black armor plating, crosshatched with energy conduits that pulsed molten red with every thruster burn. The smaller escort ships moved with uncanny synchronicity, weaving in and out of the diamond's vertices, as though choreographed for maximum envelopment. Elder Bluesong's form rippled, as though a breeze had passed across a frozen lake. "That configuration," he murmured, "is the trademark of the Dark Swarm fleet." His voice carried the weight of centuries. They wield heavy plasma cannons and gravity pulse projectors designed specifically to raid undefended colonies, then vanish before any relief force can mount a counterattack. His shoulders glowed in mottled patterns of steely gray and crimson, betraying both resolve and dread. The legends of the Dark Swarm were old as Astra itself. They descended like black hawks upon unsuspecting settlements, leaving ruin in their wake. Blue Song turned back to Crystal Hum. "Contact Engineering Council immediately. We need real-time scans of their energy signatures and attempt reverse vectoring on their weapons frequencies. Right away." Technician consoles flared to life. Analysts at the sensor banks recoiled as they replayed raw power curve graphs. "Elder, preliminary reads indicate they're using early-generation stealth plating. Their hull shapes flicker in standard optical bands," one engineer said, eyes glued to her monitor. "If we disable the visual filtering algorithm, we can lock onto their actual outlines." "Do it," Blue Song ordered crisply. He tapped the command rail to open every available sensor: channel infrared, ultraviolet, gravimetric, and neutrino detection. "Crystal Hum, are the surface view cameras capturing any imagery of bridge crews or weapon operators?" Crystal Hum nodded and switched to the high-spectrum overlay. On the infinite viewport beyond the station's transparent shell, the 27 Dark Swarm vessels drifted closer. Every so often, faint veins of purple energy traced across their hulls, like the cold pulse of some interstellar predator's veins. The sight made the room's temperature feel suddenly frigid. Meanwhile, an administrative alert blinked crimson on Blue Song's secondary display. "Colony security status. Threat level maximum. Civilian evacuation advised." Beneath the warning banner, a triangular hazard icon flashed incessantly, underscoring the impending catastrophe. Crystal Hum, young but battle-hardened by virtual wargame drills, could not tear his gaze from the screen. He recalled the archival record of the last Dark Swarm raid, nearly 150 years ago. Not a single outpost survived to file a report. "Elder," he said quietly, "ground station surveillance has just flagged heavy weapon platforms deploying in the northern asteroid ring. That vantage point allows them to unleash gravity pulsars against multiple targets simultaneously." Bluesong closed his eyes for a moment, his luminous form dimming under the strain. "They won't attempt boarding yet. Dark Swarm doctrine is to neutralize defense grids from obliterate power nodes and communications, then dispatch raiding parties for salvage." At that moment, a comm link opened. On the side screen flickered Colonel Saren, leader of the orbital patrol flank. Her features gleamed through the holofeed like a faceted gemstone. "Elder, our nearest scout ships are en route," she reported. However, their acceleration is sluggish compared to the swarm's formation. "If the enemy ignores warning shots, they will overrun our interceptors before we can even engage." Bluesong pondered for a heartbeat. "Understood, Colonel. Hold fire. Deploy electromagnetic gauntlets around our orbital perimeter toe. Slow their approach, not to destroy. If they disregard our cease and desist, mark their vessels on all frequencies and escalate to highest priority alert." His tone was unyielding. Securing time was their only objective. "Gauntlets online," Crystal Hum confirmed almost immediately. Across the holomap, a latticework of cerulean lines sprang to life, encircling Sector 7B9 like an arresting net. 2 scout ships slipped beneath the barrier to probe the lines. Instantly, a plasma bolt spat from one of the Dark Swarm frigate's bright violet, crackling against the gauntlets. The pulse hammered the field, causing localized fractures in the electromagnetic mesh, but the barrier held. The initial attack, though powerful, was too slow to break the net instantly. Seizing the moment, Elder Bluesong activated his personal comm. "Dark Swarm Fleet," he intoned, voice echoing through the colony's optical and radio networks. "This is the Astra Mining Colony, Sector 7B9. You are in violation of Galactic Council statutes by armed incursion into inhabited space. Withdraw now or face consequences." His tone was calm, resonant like ice flowing across glass, yet laced with unshakable authority. Silence answered him. The holomap's red icons all switched to Mayday and combat mode. In that instant, every console light flickered, and the command chamber filled with low-frequency resonances as the fleet's weapons arrays powered up. Below ground, miners paused mid-operation, eyes fixed on warning displays. Conveyor belts and drilling rigs halted, leaving cavern workspaces in eerie quiet. Families huddled in communal pods, confusion etched on glowing faces. The hush was broken only by the faint electric hum of the colony's core generators. In that suspended moment, 50 souls recognized that their most harrowing trial had arrived. Crystal Hum exhaled, knuckles whitening as he input evacuation protocols. Civilian transports deploying to subterranean shelters. All non-combatants must clear surface level within 60 seconds. On the transit rails, lev cars screeched a soft note as they reversed course toward the hatch entrance. Cargo bays opened, revealing rows of helmeted volunteers, guiding elders and children into waiting compartments. Bluesong raised a hand, the crystalline facets of his arm scattering overhead light like fractured starlight. "Ensure medical teams are stationed at every shelter entrance," he ordered. "We cannot afford casualties from panic stampedes." Beneath the room's red glow, his aura pulsed in firm, measured waves, a beacon of steadiness and chaos. Crystal Hum inserted a final log into the comm ledger. "Astra Fleet will defend civilian lives at all costs. We will not yield." He hit the transmit key. Outside the command chamber, shuttle corridors thrummed with rushing footsteps. The barricades dropped, and pulse stabilizer fields snapped into place around every vestibule. Then came the first true test, a brilliant discharge of violet-white plasma that lanced through the simulated atmosphere above the central dome. The shockwave rippled across sensor arrays, momentarily crippling non-critical visual feeds. Consoles stuttered, and the floorboards shuddered beneath the command dais. Crimson emergency lights scattered the room into strobing fragments, as if the chamber itself had been caught in the plasma-searing trail. In that punishing instant, the Dark Swarm fleet launched its opening salvo on Astra. Each explosive impact threatened to crack the crystalline moor that sheltered the colony. But even as alarms blared and power fluctuations flickered, the Assos held fast to their resolve. for they knew that every second gained, every defensive measure held, brought them closer to potential reinforcements and perhaps a slim chance at survival against the deadliest pirates in the galaxy. Desperation and the decision to break the prohibition. The first thunderous detonation rocked the colony, and the automatic defense protocols snapped into action. Blast doors slammed shut across habitation chambers, and electromagnetic barricades unfurled like webs of shimmering light, sealing every corridor against shrapnel and plasma fire. In the central command chamber, Elder Bluesong stood motionless before the holoscreen, its sensor grid awash in rippling shockwave patterns. He spoke in a calm yet urgent tone. "Crystal Hum, initial damage report." Crystal Hum's crystalline form trembled as he relayed the data. "Elder, we've sustained minimal structural losses, so fair asteroid shields absorbed most of the impact. However, one panel in the crystal processing wing has fractured, causing a minor optical energy leak. Additionally, the air recycling modules are operating at only 92% efficiency." His voice was steady but laden with worry as he monitored the live feed of critical system readout. Bluesong's luminescent shoulders knitted together in concern. Optical energy leakage can destabilize residents' bioluminescent cores, weakening them over time. "We must contain it immediately." He issued a rapid command to open the secondary refuge vault, the deepest subterranean level, normally reserved for medical isolation when crystalline structures fracture during extreme temperature shifts. Yet its capacity for only 1,200 evacuees meant over 3,000 ASOS would be left on the surface without shelter, risking panic and chaos. Crystal Hum's luminescent glow dimmed. "The vault cannot accommodate more than 1,200. The remaining evacuees?" He trailed off, eyes meeting Bluesong's with a mixture of dread and determination. The Elder nodded wordlessly. Every fallback plan had been exhausted. This attack scale far surpassed any conventional defense Astra could muster. Across the translucent dome, scout cruisers streamed back to the station, their hulls scarred but intact. Holomap overlays showed them spinning into retrograde orbit to intercept further volleys. Bluesong murmured grimly, "The Dark Swarm doesn't expect to overwhelm us by direct engagement. Their strategy is resource exhaustion, force us into our vaults, cut off our power, and seize what remains at their leisure." In that moment, Bluesong recognized a stark truth. Astra's existing arsenal magnetic gauntlets, retrofit scout ships, and defensive shields would crumble under sustained swarm barrages. Only one recourse remained: activate the forbidden frequency, the ancient hailing code locked away by the Galactic Council to sever all human communication, a prohibition born of fear that humanity's strategic genius and gravity weapons could upset the galactic balance. Violating this law would incur the Council's harshest sanctions, but without immediate aid, 5,000 ASOS faced certain annihilation. Bluesong turned to Crystal Hum, his crystalline eyes burning with resolve. "Crystal Hum, our SOS has already been sent on standard channels. If humans receive it, the Earth fleet can be here in 38 hours at best. If it's ignored, we have no other hope." He paused as his luminescent hues shifted to a mournful orange. "We cannot let 5,000 lives be extinguished." Crystal Hum swallowed hard, hand trembling over the ancient comm terminal. "Very well, Elder. I will activate the forbidden frequency now. The transmission will loop continuously until we receive a responser, until our final vessel falls silent." His voice cracked under the weight of command, but his stance remained resolute. Bluesong placed a steady hand upon the holomap table, holo etchings of the sector's coordinates shimmering beneath his palm. The SOS message, now imbued with both desperation and unwavering faith, read, "To any human vessels intercepting this call, this is the Astra Mining Colony, Sector 7B9. We invoke the forbidden frequency. We are under siege by a hostile fleet. We possess no weapons. We have children and families. If you receive this, please come." The message was encoded into every available medium: modulated light pulses across the crystal lattice, radio waves at multiple gigacycle bands, and even ultrasonic bursts outside the human hearing range, but within detection thresholds of Thunder-class carriers. Crystal Hum's fingers flew, dispatching the signal to every node in the quantum comm network. "Transmission live," he confirmed, voice taut. "Now, we wait." The prohibition against human contact dated back to the Third Galactic Schism, when Council delegates feared humanity's gravity pulse weaponry and tactical acumen might dominate the political landscape. All civilian comm channels had been hermetically sealed, and any violation carried the risk of summary expulsion or worse, military reprisals. Some even whispered of internal purges for those who defied the edict. Yet as the Dark Swarm's plasma storms pounded the colony's outer defenses, and voltage surges flickered through the reactor arrays, any theoretical sanction seemed shallow compared to the value of a single precious life. Bluesong's crystalline visage hardened like diamond under pressure. Crystal Hum, initiate cloaking protocols for the control chamber. If swarm boarding parties breach the upper levels, they must not learn how to silence our beacon. The terminal flared as encryption layers activated. Signal fragmentation, directional masking, and cryptographic rerouting. They will not be able to jam or disrupt our transmission, Crystal Hum reported. The SOS remains live. Below the command deck, echoing corridors filled with the hurried footsteps of colony, militia, and relief volunteers. Elder medics guided elderly Assos and children toward waiting convoy shuttles. Engineers checked life support monitors, while security squads stood ready with non-lethal deterrents, stun shields, and energy nets to maintain order. None bore the heart for further combat. Fear and hope intertwined in every step. The tension was palpable. Each breath felt heavy, charged with electricity, as if the very air anticipated the next strike. Above, the swarm's dreadnoughts loomed beyond the reinforced canopy, their graviton turrets primed to carve the station's core to ribbons. But within the heart of Astra, a defiant pulse resonated. 5,000 lives hanging on a fragile thread of faith that an outlawed civilization once feared and forgotten would answer their plea. On the holoscreen, a countdown timer had begun, minutes until the swarm's next barrage. Crystal Hum and Bluesong watched in silence, sharing a solemn nod. They had torn down the Council's sacred barrier and gambled their careers, reputations, and very place in the cosmos on humanity's mercy. As the first warning flare ignited on the outer hull, Elder Bluesong spoke softly, more to himself than to anyone else. May the courage of our conviction guide them to us. And with that, Astra held its breath caught between the thunder of Dark Swarm weaponry and the silent hope for human salvation, forged in the crucible of desperation and defiance. The SOS transmission, activating the forbidden frequency and the agonizing wait. When the forbidden frequency finally fired for the first time, a ribbon of ultra-blue energy swept through Astra's orbital halo, flooding the colony with near-infrared hums beyond normal perception. Each broadcast channel had been painstakingly tuned to the proprietary bands that only humanity based on century-old archives could detect. Crystal Hum was forced to draw power from the oldest, least stable inverters in the comm array, risking overload to ensure the beacon remained uninterrupted. "Elder," he murmured, brow furrowing as circuits glowed dangerously red. "We're hitting thermal limits. We must shut off non-essential channels or our inverters will fuse." Bluesong nodded gravely and keyed the console to disable the entertainment feed that streamed hollow concerts to the population. Only the deep space monitors and the SOS transmitter remained live. In the dead quiet command center, you could almost hear the colonists' hearts pulsing under their crystalline skin. A stately voice reverberated through the tunnel speakers. "All Astra residents, please cease all recreational activities. Proceed immediately to designated shelters and prepare for contingencies. Do not panic." The simulated cadence of calm resonated, yet it did little to quell the nervous tension that snaked through every corridor. Families huddled close, every echo of footsteps a reminder of the unknown beyond their shields. In the subterranean mineshaft transit hall, armored guards took up new posts around the comm vault, weapons at the ready to defend the last beacon. One lieutenant called up a readout. "Elder, electromagnetic pulses from the Dark Swarm's low-frequency plasma fire are jamming our signal." Bluesong's luminous hand clenched the railing. "Crystal Hum, engage the optoelectric anti-jamming filters. Narrow the bandwidth. We must keep the message strong enough to pierce their interference." Crystal Hum's fingers danced over the console. LEDs flickered from perilous red to a steady amber, finally settling on a confident gold glow. Anti-jamming filters are online. We're now transmitting at a focused 37 kHz, boosted by 12% output power. He exhaled, though his gaze stayed fixed on the spectral waterfall of signal strength graphs. Every decibel counted. Seconds stretched into minutes as Astra's citizens took shelter. In the vaulted cavern, their bioluminescent cores pulsed from soft cerulean to urgent crimson with each heartbeat. Children clutched crystal-cut talismans, gifts of protection passed down through generations, while elders whispered prayers in their native tongue. Far above, the ultrasonic SOS waves slipped through the vacuum, hurtling toward the distant armada of human vessels. "Elder," Crystal Hum announced quietly some minutes later, "the SOS has looped 6 times. Records are mirrored across 4 backup nodes." He turned to Blue Song, whose calm facade masked the storm within. "Now, we wait." Blue Song inclined his head and folded his hands in front of him in the customary light reflection posture. But this ritual was no longer one of cosmic attunement. It was a plea for humanity's saviors to answer across the void. Outside, the Dark Swarm's assault continued unabated. Plasma bolts stabbed at generator nodes, sending tremors through the tunnels. Each impact cracked crystalline ceiling panels, sending showers of glittering shards that tinkled like teardrops. In the refuge chambers, panic threatened to break the fragile order, but the steady hum of the SOS transmitter reminded every ASOS of their shared purpose: survival through solidarity with an unlikely ally. "Elder," Crystal Hum's voice rose over the chaos, "we can't sustain this much longer. The inverters will fail if their bombardment continues." He pointed to the countdown timer. 1, 30, 0. Only 90 minutes remained before the entire comm array collapsed into darkness. Blue Song met his gaze and offered a small, unwavering smile. "Let them believe our signal will last to the last possible moment. Even if the hardware burns, our beacon will still echo back." With that, Crystal Hum and his team redoubled their efforts. Around the final inverter, they placed ancient crystal sigils, hereditary wards, believed to absorb and damp excess energy surges, and affixed glowing stabilizer clamps harvested from decommissioned mining drones. Every measure was one of desperation, yet also of ingenuity, a testament to the ASO's spirit of innovation under duress. Simultaneously, Blue Song ordered the preparation of preliminary infrastructure data packages. "We must send schematics of the refuge tunnels and population clusters. When the Earth fleet arrives, they'll understand our layout at once." Programmers activated high compression encoding, sculpting 3-dimensional maps of every cavern, every medical outpost, into a single data stream piggybacked onto the SOS. As the timer ticked into its final 5 minutes, the Dark Swarm launched a concentrated plasma barrage at the comm array's protective dome. Each detonation sent splintered light through the residual shields, and the cooling vents squealed under near-instantaneous heat spikes. Technicians braced against the control room consoles as sparks erupted around the transmitter core. In the command chamber, Crystal Hum clasped Blue Song's arm. The countdown hit 0, 0, 5. A final ember of power faded from the circuitry. 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. All lights went dead. The hum of the transmitter ceased, and an oppressive stillness fell over the colony, broken only by distant crackles of battlefield debris. Then against all odds, a new undulating signal rose from the dead silence. It was not the metallic shriek of swarm weaponry, but the resonant thrums of a human voice. The comm speaker sputtered back to life. "Astra Colony, this is Admiral Marcus of the Earth Fleet's flagship Thunder. We have received your distress call. Hold fast, we are 36 hours out. Help is on the way." The elation was instantaneous. Walls and aisles filled with cheers as bioluminescent veins flared into brilliant rainbow hues. Crystal Hum staggered back, emotion cracking his composure. Blue Song's crystal form glowed with renewed warmth, tears of light pooling in his eyes. "They heard us," he whispered, voice thick with relief. "They're coming." For the next tense half day, every engineer and soldier rallied around the dying inverters, siphoning the last reserves of power to maintain that precious thread of communication. At the same time, medics readied the wounded, and quartermasters stockpiled essential supplies near the tunnel entrances, all focused on one truth: salvation would arrive in 43 hours at best, but until then, hope would be their guide. On the dying output meters, the final glyphs flickered once more, then held steady under the combined maintenance and psionic reinforcement of the colony. Above them, the void seemed to respond, a distant gleam in the starfield, too faint to see with the naked eye, yet unmistakable to those who lived and breathed in Astra's crystalline light. And so, as the colony braced for the grim hours ahead, a new dawn of possibility had broken. 5,000 ASOS stood ready to endure, buoyed by the knowledge that a fleet of human ships once feared. Now Reverdad answered their call. In the vast nothingness of space, the SOS was more than a signal. It was the spark that rekindled faith and cooperation across species, across laws, and across the unfathomable gulf between worlds. Earth Fleet's response: Admiral Marcus and the race against time. The instant Astra's forbidden SOS rippled across the void. It flared up on the command holoscreen aboard Thunder, Earth Fleet's 2-mile-long flagship. Admiral Marcus stood before the projection sphere, flanked by his senior officers, scanning the distant blip at coordinate 7B9. Lieutenant Reed's voice cut through the bridge's ambient hum. "Sir, they broadcast in English. It's the forbidden frequent sign used for 2 centuries." Her eyes widened in disbelief. Marcus's jaw tightened. The tiny beacon, barely a pixel on the map, represented 5,000 lives under siege. Their plea had been simple, heartbreaking. "We have no weapons. We have children. Please help us. Please." He inhaled slowly, measuring the gulf between strict council edicts and his own moral imperative. Earth had once agreed to isolate itself from other civilizations, abiding by the Galactic Council's non-interference mandates. Yet here, in the silent curvature of space, he felt the old values stir: compassion, solidarity, the vow never to abandon innocence. "Atlas," Marcus commanded the AI assistant, its pale blue interface flickering to life. "Calculate our best intercept window." The holographic globe shimmered. "At maximum safe warp, arrival estimate is 38 hours. Dark Swarm closes on Astra in under 48 hours. We have a narrow margin. By overdriving the reactors by 15%, we can reduce transit to 36 hours, but at significant risk to engine integrity." On the main display, a bold timer appeared. 36:00. It ticked steadily, a digital gauntlet thrown down. Marcus let the number settle in the silence. 36 hours, he whispered. 36 hours to rescue a colony that never expected to be saved. He swept his gaze across the assembled crew. "Prepare to engage maximum emergency protocol. Engineering, push the main fusion reactors to 115% output. Weapons, shift squadrons to proactive response status. Navigation, set course for the fastest trajectory." Lieutenant Reed nodded, fingers dancing over her console. "Sir, such a violation will trigger immediate sanctions from the Council. Diplomatic isolation, potential blockade orders, decertification of Fleet Command. But if we do nothing, thousands will die." Her voice was steady, resolute. "We are ready to comply, Admiral." An alarm boomed through the corridors. "General Quarters, execute Section 7, Proactive Response Protocol." Red and blue warning lights flashed in unison. The ship's artificial gravity slipped to a low G setting, easing the strain on the crew as they braced for sustained combat posture. Down in the engine rooms, mechanics and engineers poured coolant through the fusion cores, racing to maintain safe operating temperatures. Pressure gauges wavered as the thermonuclear chambers surged beyond standard limits. "Reactor temp up 25 degrees centigrade," a lieutenant reported to Chief Engineer Navarro. "We need immediate supercoolant infusion, or we risk meltdown." Navarro's eyes flickered with steely determination. "Activate emergency cryogenic loops. Divert superconducting coolant lines from auxiliary circuits. We'll hold 115% for the next 36 hours if we can manage the heat spikes." "Understood," the lieutenant replied. He keyed a sequence, and pumps gurgled as silvery coolant rushed through conduits, clinging to reactor walls like liquid starlight. The tension was palpable. One valve failure, one miscalculation, and Thunder could lose maneuverability. Perhaps an entire battleship would be cast adrift. Back on the bridge, Admiral Marcus watched the swirling starfield compress into hyperspace lanes. "Helm," he called. "Initiate jump sequence. Hold formation tight. All escort ships to Delta Linwell. Slice through any Dark Swarm scouts that intercept us." 15 support vessels peeled out from Thunder's flanks, their dark gray hulls glinting under emergency lighting. Each corvette bristled with gravity pulse projectors and heavy plasma cannons. In Delta formation, they resembled a pack of azure-flamed wolves, ready to pounce. As the fleet plunged into warp, the holoscreen rippled with telemetry. Ship-wide vibrations registered at 8.7 on the Richter equivalent scale. Lieutenant Reed monitored the feed. "Engineering reports coolant cycles are at critical. We can sustain this pace for a maximum of 48 hours before risking structural fatigue. Marcus locked eyes with Reed. 48 hours won't get us there before Astra's shields collapse. Reduce target arrival to 36 hours. We'll maintain full emergency thrust for the first 34 hours, then throttle back 5% to preserve reactor integrity for final approach. She nodded briskly, issuing the adjustments. Course and thrust profile updated, Admiral. Marcus exhaled, letting the command settle. Very well. All hands, focus on the mission. Protect the innocent. In the mess deck, off-duty officers huddled over hollow chessboards, black and white pieces hovering mid-air. Normally a stage for strategic diversion, tonight the game lay forgotten each piece, a silent promise of the lives they were driving to save. Hours passed in hyperspace. 12 hours. Then 24. The sirens in the engine bays stuttered warnings of creeping overheat, but the crew's faces lit by monitors and sweat kept valves open and coolant flowing. Each successful stabilizer cycle earned a cheer, a small triumph against the odds. With 6 hours remaining, an amber alert blinked on the central holoscreen. Approach limit, 98% max continuous overdrive. The bridge fell silent. Every eye turned to Admiral Marcus, awaiting his verdict. He rose from the captain's chair. "We have come too far to relent now," he declared. "Proceed at current thrust. If one ship goes down, the Delta Formation will absorb the gap. Our speed is their only shield. Continue at 115%. Lieutenant Reed hesitated for the barest heartbeat at calibrating risk to lives of her crew, then reaffirmed the order. All ships maintain emergency overdrive. Outside, the hyperspace corridor shimmered as they prepared to exit the jump. The fleet's engines roared like celestial lions, tearing through subspace currents. In that fractured light, Thunder and its escorts streaked forward, a blazing arrow aimed straight at Astra's coordinates. At 12 minutes out, Mission Control flagged a weak return signal from the colony's beacon. A faint pulse on the communicator spelled relief. Astra still held its position, and their final inverter was still alive. On the holoscreen, a simple emblema crystalline star flickered in greeting. A swell of pride rose through every sailor and officer. Trombone-bright lumens danced in emergency lights, and unspoken tears glimmered in the eyes of those who dared to risk war with the Council. Admiral Marcus allowed himself a brief nod. "They're still with us. Prepare boarding shuttles on 30-second standby. We'll assist in stabilization, and if necessary, repel any invaders." Lieutenant Reed's voice softened, tinged with wonder. "Sir, they heard us." Marcus surveyed his fleet one last time, every vessel a testament to unity and courage. "Yes, Reed, they heard us, and now we'll show them why Earth Fleet answers every SOS, no matter the law or the cost." As Thunder's glow intensified for the final warp exit, the Earth Fleet knew they were more than a military armada. They were a beacon of hope, blazing through the darkness to rescue the stranded, to defy apathy, and to prove that sometimes breaking the rules is the truest way to keep one's word. And so, with 36 hours on the clock, the greatest rescue in fleet history had begun. The gravity clash, gravity pulse strike, and the surrender of the Dark Swarm fleet. The moment the shimmering silhouettes of Earth Fleet emerged on Astra's holomap, the void around the mining colony ignited with cobalt blue thruster flares. 15 human warships, arrayed in a razor-sharp Delta formation, bore down on the disrupted ranks of the Dark Swarm with unwavering resolve. In that instant, Admiral Marcus on the Bridge of Thunder raised his gauntleted fist and issued the command with unshakable authority. Fire! No beams of light cut the darkness. No roaring explosions belched outward yet. The effect was cataclysmic. A silent wave of gravitational distortion hurtled forward, invisible but overwhelmingly powerful. It struck the lead Dark Swarm cruiser dead center, fracturing its gravity anchor cable. In a heartbeat, the vessel spun uncontrollably, torn apart by its own mass as hull segments sheared away in gravity-driven implosions. Debris burst outward in a spiral of mangled superstructure, vanishing into the star-studded backdrop. Any observer witnessing the strike for the first time could only stand aghast, feeling the vacuum itself shudder with that secret weapon's brutal force. Back in the command chamber on Astra, Elder Bluesong and Crystal Hum watched the live feed. Bluesong's luminescent form trembled in awe. They are using gravity?" he whispered, voice cracking with wonder. Crystal Hum nodded, nearly speechless. Yes, Elder. It's the gravity pulsion outlawed weapon that disrupts an enemy ship's internal attractor fields. The Dark Swarm has never faced anything like this. Blue Song's crystalline heart pulsed brighter, not from fear but from astonishment at humanity's technological leap. Under the jolt of that first salvo, the remaining 26 Dark Swarm vessels recoiled in shock. Almost instantly, their plasma arrays locked onto the new threat, unleashing a simultaneous barrage of scarlet fire. Streaks of molten crimson cut across the blackness, each bolt a potential death sentence for the human fleet. But Earthfleet had anticipated this. 15 synchronized plasma shield screens bloomed like translucent bubbles around each ship. The red blast struck the shields with high-pitched electronic shrieks, ricocheting into the vacuum without inflicting harm. On Thunder, Lieutenant Reed monitored the shield integrity bars. "Sir, our screens are holding at 92% efficiency. The drop rate is stabilized at 8%. Marcus allowed himself a grim smile. "Excellent. Maintain formation. Prepare for volley 2. He turned to his tactical officers. "This time, target their core defensive installations. We've located 2 heavy ordnance silos on each flank." Moments later, each of the 15 vessels switched to precision strike mode. Hammer strike electromagnetic munitions launched in unison, streaking like guided meteors. They arc gracefully toward the nearest Dark Swarm cruiser's energy silo housings. In the void silence, a series of muffled detonations rippled through space as the first salvo scored direct hits. The silo rockets overheated and detonated from within, tearing open their host ship's aft section. The second Dark Swarm cruiser lost power instantly and drifted inert, a dark specter adrift in the kill zone. Without hesitation, Admiral Marcus barked, "Gravity pulse! Initiate again!" A second, more focused wave erupted from Thunder. The gravity distortion doubled in intensity, collapsing hull plating and incapacitating critical control nodes. White-hot flashes of compressed hull metal burst outward in a deadly flower of shrapnel. Neighboring swarm ships were caught in the fallout, their armor buckling under the sudden shifts in mass distribution. In scarcely 15 minutes, the combination of gravity strikes and guided missiles had shattered 23 of the 27 enemy vessels. The remaining 4 ships attempted to break formation and flee, but they found every escape vector blocked by Earthfleet's Delta screen. The escorts pivoted seamlessly, their blue-tinged thrusters cutting off any avenue of retreat. Deep within Astra's subterranean sanctuaries, 5,000 ASOS watched the unfolding triumph through crystal view monitors. Their eyes widened in disbelief as the Dark Swarm's armada unraveled before them. Crystal Hum's voice trembled with emotion. They did it! They've saved us!" His bioluminescent aura flared to brilliant sapphire, mirroring the exhilaration sweeping through the populace. Outside the command dome, families spilled from their shelters, their crystalline tears sparkling in the red and blue warning lights as they cheered for humanity's valor. On board the Dark Swarm flagship, Black Huntress, Lord Hunter's obsidian visage, flickered on the universal comm channel. His voice was hoarse, trembling as much as his once impregnable hull. Your methods are too unexpected. We surrender. Unconditionally." The grainy feed revealed his jagged armor, plating marred by pulse fractures. His flagship's bridge, a ruin of twisted metal and failing circuits. Admiral Marcus activated Earthfleet's master channel, broadcasting with calm authority. "To all surviving Dark Swarm units, your assault has failed. Lay down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Our gravity pulse technology is not an idle threat. Any further aggression will be met with immediate eradication. You are ordered to surrender." His voice carried both the firmness of command and the mercy of restraint. One by one, the 4 remaining ships lowered their shields. Their plasma batteries powered down in silent rows. Passive compliance drones unfolded, marking their hulls with universal surrender beacons. Within minutes, Earthfleet boarding parties' marine units, in grav suits and magnetic grapplers, were en route to secure the crippled vessels. Humanity's armada did not fire another shot. They held high alert, scanning every dark corridor for hidden weapons, until each Dark Swarm crew was disarmed, contained, and escorted to temporary holding cells. Medical teams from Thunder beamed down to the colony's surface, carrying emergency triage kits, nutrient serums, and crystal stabilizing elixirs for any wounded ASOS. Soft-spoken physicians transmitted messages of peace and protection alongside holographic medical log. Within Astra, Elder Bluesong gazed at the hollow feet of boardings and healers. "We have emerged from the nightmare," he breathed. Crystal Hum placed a steady hand on the Elder's shoulder. "Thanks to them, Elder. Thanks to humans." Below ground, the refugees and miners poured into open chambers, their cheers echoing like a chorus of living gemstone. The fractured ceilings and scorched tunnel walls served as grim reminders of what might have been but tonight. They sang of salvation and unity. Bioluminescent gardens were opened as healing wards. Communal gatherings erupted around the distribution of hot nutrient broth and medicinal crystal teas. In the aftermath of the battle, the bonds between the two species were forged in shared relief and gratitude. Astra's leaders dispatched envoys to Thunder's landing pads, bearing crystalline emissaries as tokens of peace. Admiral Marcus greeted them aboard his flagship, the two civilizations' representatives exchanging bows of mutual respect. As Starfire danced on the horizon and the repaired gravity wells hummed soothingly, Astra began its greatest reconstruction in centuries. The Dark Swarm prisoners were granted asylum under strict supervision, their captors choosing diplomacy over vengeance. Earth Fleet remained on station for the next cycle, training Astra engineers in shield reinforcement and gravity pulse containment, ensuring the colony would never again face such peril alone. In the great cavern of reflection, under a dome patched with new crystal panels, Elder Bluesong addressed the gathered multitude. "Tonight, we witnessed that true strength does not lie in domination, but in the will to protect the innocent. Human hearts have proved as resilient as their engines. From this day forward, Astra stands forever in gratitude and as a beacon for peace among the stars." As the final strains of celebration echoed through the tunnels, the colony's pale azure lights pulsed in solemn accord. Somewhere beyond the planets and the asteroid belts, the universe took note. When courage meets compassion, even the darkest swarm can be overcome. And in that luminous truth, both Assos and humans found a new dawn, brighter than any crystal ever mined. Aftermath in the Guardians era, the Galactic Council and the future. 3 months after the battle for Astra Colony, the grand circular chamber of the Galactic Council thrummed with activity. Delegates from over 100 sentient species filled every tiered bench beneath a vaulted ceiling painted with a sweeping replica of the Milky Way. Whispers rippled through the crowd as Admiral Marcus and Elder Bluesong ascended the central dais, the hall falling instantly silent in their presence. Elder Bluesong spoke first, his resonant voice carrying across the vast space. "Honorable members of the Council," he began, "when our colony stood on the brink of annihilation, we faced one final choice: to break the prohibition against human contact." He paused, the crystalline luminescence of his form flickering like a living tapestry of history. "Because we chose to invoke that forbidden alliance, 5,000 ASOS lives were spared." Behind him, the massive holoscreen flickered to life, replaying the drama of the rescue. Thunder and its escorts surging through space in delta formation. The invisible shockwaves of the gravity pulse slicing enemy cruisers in two. Hammerstrike missiles tearing open launch silos, and the survivors of Dark Swarm forced to surrender beneath humanity's might. Across the chamber, delegates leaned forward, riveted by the visual retelling of the twist in galactic lore, humans not as reckless destroyers, but as saviors in Astra's darkest hour. Admiral Marcus took the podium next. His voice was steady, carrying both humility and conviction. "Esteemed Council," he addressed them, "we do not stand here to challenge your laws. We stand to demonstrate that power carries an equal burden of responsibility. Earth Fleet violated the Covenant's ban, yes, but we do not ask for pardon merely because of our strength. Rather, we ask you to judge us by our actions. We saved the helpless, protected the innocent, and upheld the highest values of compassion." A hush fell over the chamber until Lady Svatara, the ethereal delegate of the Pure Energy Collective, rose from her seat. Known for her people's long-standing caution toward humanity, she now offered an unprecedented smile. "The joint decision of Astra Colony and Earth Fleet has set a new precedent," she pronounced. "We must revise our statutes so that no civilization is left to perish in isolation." Her words resonated like a benediction, and even the most conservative delegates nodded in agreement, the Council's mood warming. With the debate concluded, the Council President called for a vote on the new Guardians Protocola Universal Charter to codify galactic solidarity. The terms read as follows: unrestricted SOS rights. Any peaceable colony may broadcast a distress call directly to Earth Fleet at any moment of dire peril. Authorized proactive response. Upon verification of an emergency, Earth Fleet may intervene under Article 7 without penalty. Council oversight. A special oversight commission will monitor each intervention to ensure that Earth Fleet's aid remains strictly for humanitarian rescue. When the final tally flashed onto the chamber's holo display, 92% in favor and outpouring of approval swept the assembly. For the first time in 2 centuries, the Council had reversed a principle upon witnessing genuine proof of humanity's noble use of its formidable power. Delegates lauded the decision. Humans are truly worthy to serve as guardians of the galaxy. Back on Astra, the colony celebrated in a festival of light and gratitude. Fragments of the shattered Darkswarm armor were arranged as monuments to remembrance, and crystalline lanterns bathed the plazas in soft hues of violet and blue. The people honored the 1,200 ASOS who had been injured and paid tribute to the 37 Earth Fleet Marines who sacrificed their lives. Elder Bluesong and Crystal Hum stood side by side beneath a soaring arch of light, and the Elder murmured, "They have shown courage and mercy." Crystal Hum replied, "Our faith was justified." Aboard Thunder, Admiral Marcus and Lieutenant Reed shared a quiet moment by the observation port. Through the curved crystal window, they watched Astra's restored glow, no longer a besieged outpost, but a thriving beacon of new alliance. Reed turned to him, awe in her voice. "Sir, today Earth Fleet stands honored rather than ostracized." Marcus offered a gentle smile, eyes reflecting the distant starlight. "That is the legacy we have fought to forgeth power to protect, not to conquer." As the final press debrief concluded, Galactic media beamed images of human and ASOS delegates clasping hands under the Council's dome. Headlines blazed across star systems. "Galaxy United, Deathworlders rise as guardians." And so, beneath the same tapestry of distant suns where once only conflict had roared, a new era dawned. 15 streaks of azure light, the signature of Earth Fleet's grand rescue, would forever be etched in Astra's memory. These light symbols of hope remained as a testament that true strength is measured not by destruction, but by the will to save. Thus began the Guardians' era, a time when any call for help from any corner of the galaxy would be met by the steady response of those who dared break the rules for the sake of compassion. In the quiet moments, as Starfield spun beyond the reinforced domes of Astra, the colony remembered that a single SOS had altered the course of history, and that hope, once kindled, can illuminate the universe.